Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Do you ever feel like you're doing the journey alone? Have you ever felt like that you just need someone to talk to, someone who could bring some perspective into your world? Or maybe you're not the type of person who learns from watching video courses or reading books, and you just want to talk with someone specifically about your challenges and how to break through them. I want to introduce you to the High Performance Men's Coaching Program. It's an intensive coaching experience designed to unlock a man's full potential in his life, business, and relationships. Over this past year, I've brought together and trained some of the best coaches in the world to help men step up, stop playing small, and become the strongest versions of themselves. Learn more about High Performance Men's Coaching at kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. You are not alone, and we are here to cut through the crap, hold you accountable, and challenge you so that you can make your dreams become a reality. Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Julian Kaufmann. He's the author of Let Go, Let It Flow, The Path to Peace and Personal Power. And Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. And Julian, let's dive in now with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by that's helped you on your journey.
Great. My quote I'll share is from the Tao Te Ching. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need.
And how does that really play into your story, your journey?
So in the beginning, very competitive and really ruled by the ego. So the notion of letting go of what I am, the false beliefs, was really transformative. And by letting go of the ego and acting more from your heart, life began to change for me. And then ultimately, by letting go of what I have and sharing with others, it's much more gratifying. And I think ultimately that's what we're here to do, is to share our gifts with others. And once we start doing that, you can really feel, increase in energy and more satisfaction in your life and in the lives of those that are around you.
Yeah. What would you say are or what could be some examples of the ego controlling you in the past? Like, what did it look like so the audience can kind of see, oh, okay, that's what he's talking about?
This is the identification with status or the material world, being competitive, of wanting to win, and then using money as a measure of success, and that your notion of your identity is really dependent on external things and really not knowing who you are at the core. So at the root is you're using external validation and constantly looking for that. Very empty.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like almost a masculine sort of natural response. I'm not saying it's right, but I feel like it's this is a conversation for men, that the status, the material, the competitive drive to earn more. And if you are earning more, then you are a successful man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm a little older, and so grew up in the era of conspicuous consumption and so forth. They had the show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. So acquiring material wealth was front and center. Being a competitive guy, played tennis and soccer or some sports, just wanted to win, right? So that's an objective measure. And I think not having that grounded center can get men into trouble. And I agree with you that it's a useful thing, but like so many things, the expression, the mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. And sometimes we get it in reverse. So we do have a need to provide for others. And that's a very rewarding thing. And that becomes more of giving, from a true place of service, not an ego gratifying kind of show off thing. So that's the kind of the difference between the two as I see it.
Yeah. So you're not saying, we should stop we should, let go of that competitive nature that we have, or we should stop trying to win and just kind of more laissez-faire. I don't get that vibe from this, but what I'm getting is to raise awareness around why you want to win and be so competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I discovered this path framework after going through some hard times. And I think the ego got me into situations that maybe if I had presence and more awareness, I wouldn't have found myself in. So at the core of what I'm trying to get across is energy and conserving energy. And when you think about letting go, you clutch and you resist and you're not really present. So by changing how you interact with the world, you can have more energy to do really what you're called to do.
Yeah. So go into that story a little bit. You said you were in this place where your ego was driving you and it kind of led to some bad decisions. Go into that a little bit so we can understand more about how you led to this whole let go, let it flow sort of philosophy.
Sure. So maybe a little background. I have an electrical engineering degree. I've been in energy for most of my working life. So put that in context to kind of see the world from maybe a different vantage point. So there I was with material desire and drive, married with children. And then one of my daughters nearly died. She developed anorexia. And it was just so devastating to be around my child and not be able to help her. So that began the process of letting go of things that were outside of my control. I did everything I could for her. So I had to learn how to release. And so it was sort of through that process of letting go that I became aware. So the path framework, P is for presence, A is for acceptance, T is for thankfulness, and H is for helping. And so through the process of her struggles, I went through these 4 elements and came through on the other side with more energy and gratitude and really wanting to help others. And so that's why I wanted to write the book. But in the midst of losing a child is an incredibly traumatic thing. And luckily, my daughter did not die, but she came close on several occasions. And again, just being powerless and helpless and coming to terms with things that are beyond and greater than yourself. So that was kind of the beginning of the humbling. And I became more religious at that point. It's natural when you're going through hardships, but kind of connected in a genuine level. And then began observing things, and then things clicked in my mind with this framework that would explain life after I went through this transformation as compared to what it was like before.
Yeah. So it was the path, which is the presence, acceptance, thankfulness, and helping. This was the path, the formula that you discovered going through this challenging time.
Absolutely, yes.
And so if we go back to this here, when could this be applied? The path, presence, acceptance, thankfulness, helping. What are some situations in which a man could use this and it would significantly help them move forward and or reduce pain and suffering?
So you do a great job with your show. And first, I want to commend you for that. And the presence, physically showing up in the world and all the things that your guest and you talk about in terms of taking care of your body, what you eat, the food, getting proper rest, nutrition. We experience everything in our physical bodies, so we really need to start there. So my definition of presence incorporates the physical, how we manifest and how we show up. So, if I have a toothache, I'm not going to be the best Julian. I'm not going to be as present because my attention and focus is going to be on my tooth in that case. But so that's the part. And we're seeing more and more about the need to rest and recover. It was common, people would talk about you could sleep when you die and that sort of stuff, and that it was a badge of honor to just push really hard, and letting go of that and realizing that you need to rest and recover. And I think, young people, young men especially, they're driven, they want to achieve. So kind of balancing that out is key. And then, like anything, having a stable foundation allows you really to move into the next levels. And the next part is acceptance. So kind of recognizing where you are. We may be worried about the future or fretting about the past. And so we make judgments. And again, it distracts us from the present. So it's similar to being present, but it's a slight difference the way I view it, that the suspension of judgment and really becoming aware of whatever it is in your life. Maybe your job, you kind of look at it and it doesn't fulfill you, but yet you like the money. And then you're sort of stuck in something, but you rationalize, you justify, and it may be hard for you to accept that you feel called to do, something else. Maybe your family wants you to do a particular type of job, but your heart is calling you somewhere else, but you deny that and you don't acknowledge it, right? So you're suppressing it and you're fighting a current, a flow of life that's trying to pull you or push you into a certain direction. So we can take actions or inactions that really waste energy, waste our lives. So that's the acceptance. As you kind of come through on the other end of it, what I've noticed that all these things in life, I feel like, life, it's for your good, and all these things work out for the best. They're lessons, and sometimes they're very painful. And hopefully if you can practice these tools, you can be more aware. You don't have to go through the struggles, but ultimately you can find things to be grateful for. And for myself, going through near death of my daughter, a divorce, losing, half of my money, changing jobs, a lot of things happened to me all at once, which that was kind of like my identity. So I kind of lost all that. And one level you could be bitter, but I found I was very grateful because I was able to rediscover who I really was at the end of that. It was like everything was stripped off. So I was very grateful for that experience. And I think practicing gratitude has been shown to have many benefits for people. And again, back to the energy, you're opening yourself for more and saying to bring it on and, thank you. And it creates that give and take, and that giving and receiving, and the flow continues. And then lastly, the helping is really serving others. And I think that's our higher calling and what we're here to do with the talents. Everybody's unique and they have a unique gift to share with the world, and they can find that and then serve others. That's the ultimate calling for them.
Right. And presence. If we're not present, or what would happen to a man who is not present? His attention and focus is always somewhere else. He's constantly, his mind, you're with him, even when you're in conversation, you can tell he's just not fully there for you. Like, what would happen to a man who doesn't fully embrace presence?
Well, I think he misses life. You're sort of operating on a very superficial level, and all the wonder and beauty, all the connections with other people, the ability to make new mental associations, creativity, being fully present may create additional opportunities for that person. He would have new awareness or see a new business opportunity, meet a romantic partner, any number of things that could fundamentally change his life. But if you're existing somewhere else, you're not here, and you're wasting precious energy and precious life.
So man's not living. Is that safe to say? A man who's not present.
Right. You're somewhere else.
And for a man to be not accepting the current reality, so he's living in this sort of internal resistance, what would happen to a man who's living like that, where he has not come to acceptance with reality, with good or bad?
Well, I think all these things waste energy. So ultimately, my goal would be to have people transmit fully, to live fully. I think you mentioned that in your show about becoming the man, your potential, tapping into that. So if you're wasting it, one of the things that struck me, we've come a long way with energy efficiency in our homes and our cars.
Right.
And yet we continue to operate our bodies and our minds in this way that really wastes a lot of energy. And, when we're not present, the concept of flow from a psychology standpoint of being an optimal experience, right, where your brain waves are operating at a slower frequency, and you're not really thinking, and you've lost your sense of self, and you're fully engaged in the activity, that notion of flow and being in that optimal state. But when you're not accepting, you're judging. right? So you're wasting energy. It's taking mental energy for you to either say that that's good or bad and fixate on that. I'm not saying that we have discerning brains that we need to utilize, but it's kind of not letting that run away from us being in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. So if I'm not accepting, I'm kind of judging. It sounds like I'm putting myself in a negative state, and obviously when I'm in a negative state, I'm wasting energy, because it takes energy to do that, and it's not productive energy. And we only have so much energy in a day, and if we're spending it on negative thought patterns, it's not going to help us.
Exactly.
And so you mentioned, going through a divorce, daughter almost died, changed jobs. So this is all happening at once. This is a lot for any person, any individual to handle. How did you find gratitude in that state? Because it's easy for someone to find gratitude when things are going great. But,
yes.
But you obviously aren't even thinking about it. You're just kind of there living and things are great. But in that state of crisis or extreme challenge, how do you find that gratitude, or what are some tips here?
That was very difficult. And I experienced things in the order of the presence first, then the acceptance, then came to the thankfulness. And it was not easy. So after coming through this period and being able to look back and kind of say, oh, wow, that really worked out well, because now life is new to me, and things that I'd never noticed were apparent. So what you mentioned about a man who isn't present, I kind of missed all of these opportunities. And I'm a musician, and when you get the goosebumps when you hear a song that you like, or something strikes you and you can feel the energy of life at that moment, and you know that feeling of flow is something that's just magical, and you can have much more of that when you're present. But it took me several months of really hard times of not sleeping and ruminating and going through anxiety spells and a variety of things. I lost a ton of weight, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I never had any of these issues before, but coming through to the other side, and it gradually just started off with focusing on the breath. You hear these things about being mindful, practicing mindfulness, looking at how you're eating and how you're showing up, and then kind of coming through, and it's like, wow, the sun looks beautiful today, or whatever it would be. That it's like, where did that thought come from? And it's like, oh wow, I'm noticing things, and it's kind of built from there. And then to continually cultivate that practice of gratitude. And I say for people, kind of fake it till you make it, but you can find something to be thankful for. And the fact that you're alive, you're listening to the show, you have knowledge from men, you have all these resources, you have so much to be thankful for. But again, sometimes we get trapped in that ego, and we think it needs to be a certain way. And again, that's kind of us imposing what we think it should be on life that's much bigger and better than we can really imagine.
Right. Yeah. Our expectations of how we want things to be can really cause a lot of suffering, instead of really just going through what you're sharing here, the presence, the acceptance, thankfulness, the gratitude, and then helping. But yeah, I think our expectations of where we feel we should be is what creates a lot of tension. I think even going back to with the ego of status and winning, and maybe not having the level of finances where we want to be at, or our friend got a new car, it makes us feel less, or whatever, or they're having kids, and you feel like you should be having kids, or you're single and your friends are all married, and it's like this competition that isn't even a competition, but it's really just in your mind. Like you have created that suffering. Yeah, I'm thinking just like, one guy could be sad that he's single, whereas another guy could be extremely happy that he's single. It's
exactly
like the same position, but just based on how you're viewing it is what creates either happiness or sadness.
Absolutely. Like it's like going to a sporting event, you've got two fans, or one team, one for the other, and then you got a neutral observer. They're all watching the same thing, but the outcome is totally different to all three of those people in that example. And it's just an arbitrary thing, but we get so wrapped up in our story on an outcome, and that's not really the purpose.
So it seems like freedom from some sort of outcome is what can liberate you is what I'm getting here.
Absolutely.
Like if we release ourselves from a specific outcome, then we would not suffer. But what if we really want that outcome? What if that is genuinely what we want?
Well, there's nothing wrong in pursuing that, but regardless of what the outcome is, you be more happy in the process itself, the practice towards the goal, getting better every day, being a craftsman, and not so fixated on the instant success and wanting the whatever fame and fortune, whatever it may be. And I got to go back to the material things, but there's so many other things you may be striving, but you want kind of the quick fix and the pot of gold at the end where the destination, you hear these things. And I think it's easier said than done when you're a young guy coming out and ready to go conquer the world, and you're using images and thoughts, things that you've picked up from external sources, and then you're coming out into the world to try to figure it all out, and then get bombarded with all these messages and so forth. I mean, Instagram is these kind of lifestyles and other things that aren't real, but they look real, and marketers play on psychology and the desires and things that are basic human drives, right, that we want. But I think we get kind of led astray by that.
Right. Yeah. So talking maybe a guy for some reason has a stack of $100,000 on his bed with a girl or something. It's like, what is that? Or just success, painted all over, but not, sometimes skipping the actual trial and what would be worthy of seeing is that hard work and that getting back up and not quitting. Sometimes that's not captured, and we just see the end result. And so we, I think, forget that is a part of the process.
Absolutely.
The hard work. And then, so helping, we touched on the first three here. So helping, I find that in helping or serving or giving back, that in this act, I don't know, is it safe to, I feel like you just can't suffer. Like when you're doing something good for someone else, and in that moment, you aren't suffering. Like if you were suffering, if you were in a really bad place, but just doing something good for someone else relieves that pain.
Absolutely. There was a book about scarcity that I read, and the difference between an abundant mindset and a scarcity mindset. And when you start focusing with the adage of where attention goes, energy flows. And so if you're coming from a place of abundance and security and love, fulfillment, and you give without expectation, just from the bottom of your heart, whatever it is you feel called to serve financially, whatever it may be, it's just an incredibly liberating thing. But kind of like the reverse is like you become Scrooge and miserly. That's like, well, it's mine, mine, mine. I want to accumulate it and you can't have it. I'm going to spend my time counting it, right? But if you trust and allow the abundant flow to occur, it's just so much more gratifying. And the beautiful thing is that you get so much more back in return by giving.
Yeah. I think it feels like you can't possibly, like, what could you possibly give when you're in such a bad place? You feel like you need someone to give to you because you're in a tough place. And so I think that's where that sort of dilemma is. It's like, it is the thing that can help you right now, but I feel that often we might not think that we have anything to give because we're lacking. We feel like we're lacking. We're not up to par or expectations.
Yeah. And religious, spiritual traditions, it's better to give than to receive. And from treating people with mental illnesses or whatever to volunteer in animal shelters or to do something outside of themselves and really to get out of your head and get into your heart and start moving and sharing. And that's what life is about. So I think the volunteering, sharing, giving gets you out of your own head into your heart, and then you're out participating in life instead of looking at it on the sidelines, being dejected or saying, why do these people have all this? And then you kind of get into the judgments and all the other things that really detract from you being a full participant in the life.
Do you think that is where a lot of men are? Not participating, rather they are more so observers of others.
I know I was, and that's really why I want to share what I've learned with your audience to hopefully for them to avoid what I experienced. And, I haven't had many men come up and share. I'm eager to hear, but I do have a suspicion that there are many people like I was then. And really, I wanted to write this book and share it with those people to tap into something to better utilize their lives so that, the world needs the gifts and the innovations that people have. So it's just a shame that people don't fully realize their potential. And so that's really, I think, where our goal is, yours and mine, to reach men to help them optimize and live the most fulfilling life they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's basically what this whole podcast is about, is helping men reach their full potential and just move forward, just progress, just grow. And I feel strongly that everyone does have something that they can do and or build or create or do something that could really make a big impact, not only on their lives, but on many other lives. And I feel like when we're living in that state of helping, I feel like you capture flow more.
Absolutely. You do, for sure. I mean, you're sharing and it just comes and goes right through you and you're passing it on. So it's kind of like back to the sporting event, doing the wave. You're kind of moving along and you're part of this thing and it's fun and you can watch it, and then it comes around to your turn, you participate. It's kind of the way life is. There's ebbs and flows that you can experience. Maybe there's some times where you need help. And I know when I was down, I was very fortunate. I had people that helped me, and I'm very grateful for that. And that's another thing where I think men sometimes don't want to admit that they need help or don't want the help in that way, that somehow their pride gets in the way. But, ultimately, in order for people to truly be able to give, you need to be able to receive as well. So that you can learn how to be a good receiver, but ultimately, I think people have a harder time, at least initially, with the giving part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. I recently just watched the latest Arnold Schwarzenegger commencement speech at the University of Houston. It just went live this Saturday. And I've seen he has a very popular one already at USC where it talks about his 6 laws of success. And it's about winning, it's about success and really moving forward in your life. It's great. But this last one, I was like, what is he going to say? Like, what is he going to talk about? He already gave such a great one. And it was all about how you can't do it alone. And he says like that was something that was left out of the last talk he gave, which was that I did all those things. That's right. But there were always great people around me, supporting me and behind me. I didn't do it alone. And so going on to what you're saying about, being able to receive and to ask for help, it's critical, because maybe there are people in your life who are trying to help you, but you're not receiving it. Therefore, you don't get the help that would absolutely get you to the next level. And
then on another level too, you're denying that other person the gift of giving to you
his
as
gift.
Well. Yeah, it blocks that. I had a compulsion, or felt this urge to make a donation to someone, and because of timing of another thing, I was not able to do it. And this just happened today, and I kind of found myself just being like, oh man, I missed that opportunity. They were luckily able to get the funding that they needed, so my money wasn't needed at the time, but there's just that slight like, that's just a little disappointing that circumstances prevented me from hitting the donate button or getting to a donate button at that time. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing there, to block someone from sharing their gift. And I think just allowing it helps you and benefits them. And I think Arnold's talk was a kind of piggyback off of the foreword that he wrote for Tim Ferriss in his book, The Tools of Titan. The foreword was all about how,
I didn't do this all by myself. I didn't do this without the help of others. And I allowed myself to receive that help as well. If anyone has that book, if you really look at what he's saying that you can't do it alone, and there are people out there who can help you, and you should let them.
Absolutely. And we're fortunate. I mean, your show is great in you provide mentorship, or you have these different teachers who come on. And so the listener can pick up tools and of course their immediate group of friends or whatever, mentors that are out there. But I think ultimately we all go through a process of being mentored or being the mentee. And it's just kind of the circle of life, to use the Disney movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. You said it a few times, like, shows like this are available, great resources. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I'm wondering where that's coming from. Was it lacking in the past? Were there not resources as plentiful like this, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a different time, right? When I was growing up, or kind of a young man in the world. But there's just so much information that's out there, and I guess it's the question of, it's like food, right? You can get empty calories out there, or you can get nourishment. And I think there are real needs that are out there, and a real change is possible. And so making that shift from blind greed into more meaning with our lives and purpose, as for millennials, that they want to matter. And so I think we've evolved from where we need our basic needs to be met, security, comfort. And now we're kind of moving into an era where we can look at higher order things of like, well, does this really matter? Does this speak to me? Do I feel fulfilled, or where am I going with this? And so it's a great opportunity to do so much more, because we have the economic ability and the technologies are there for people. So I think the environment is there, and the information could be something that could be lacking, or it was when I was a young man, that it's so much more prevalent now. You can Google, you can find things, you can get mentorship, you can get in a mastermind group or what have you. So whatever your interest, the calling that you have, you can pursue it. So that's a great opportunity. So I'm excited about the way things are unfolding. I know it's very turbulent and traumatic, but we're moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is just I think that's just, it's so powerful to be able to, if you have a problem, you can go to the internets and you can Google and you can figure it out. Like, at least the awareness level, you can raise your awareness of a current problem, and it's up to you to be able to take action. I think that is kind of the new challenge, where it's not an information problem or a resource problem, but it's a ability to execute the information that you learned. I think that's the new state.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm doing this with my book. I felt compelled to write this book and share it. I reached out, connected with you, and I'm, putting it out there. There was a drive, something I wanted to do. I read about how to self-publish, how to go through these things, So,
right.
And it is very different than electrical engineering, and very different than an MBA and other things that I have. So, that writing and internet marketing, all these things is kind of a learning thing, but there's tons of resources out there, and it's really anything you want to do. You want to learn how to play the guitar, you want to cook, whatever it may be, you can find it. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolute great opportunity that we live in today. Let's now dive into the knowledge round. I'm just going to ask you a few last rapid fire questions here. So are you ready for the knowledge round, Julian?
Yes.
So you might be wondering, why would I ever invest in a coach? I've never done anything like that before. Well, it's going to shorten your learning curve and save you the time that it would take to achieve your goal. You can avoid making mistakes that you would otherwise make. You'll get more results because everything will be tailored to your specific needs and challenges. The coach will hold you accountable so you can't procrastinate, so you can't be lazy, so you can't say, I didn't have the time. You'll be challenged and pushed harder than you've ever been pushed. You'll have conversations so powerful that you'll feel more energized, alive, and confident and certain about the goals that you have in front of you and where you want to go, but most importantly, where you want to be. You'll go farther than you've ever gone before when you have a coach. If you want to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program, go to kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program. You have got to understand that every successful person in the world invests in coaching to go from good to great. And if you're already a high achiever, then how much more could you achieve if you had a high performance men's coach at your side to push you even further? Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply for our high performance men's coaching program. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling kind of lost or unsure of their purpose?
I think it would be just to trust the process and to release the goal and focus on doing the best at whatever it is where you are. And as we talked about earlier, really to become present and focus more on the process and not the end goal.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And what do you think is holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men today?
I think probably the chief thing is just not being present and taking time out and to be alone with your thoughts and to really step back in quiet, solitude, whatever, just that ability to kind of slow down and reset yourself. Meditate. Tim Ferriss in his book, The Power of Meditation for a lot of these high achievers. I've been trying to emulate and do meditation. I struggle with it, but it's very helpful. I make an analogy. It's like taking a boiling pot of water off of the stovetop. You remove that energy and it can kind of settle down. And so once you can kind of get control of your mind, then that really allows you to pursue things more easily. So not being present is probably the one thing that I think could make the most difference.
Yeah, great. And what's something that you just have to do every morning, like a morning ritual? You just have to do it every morning before you start your day.
I'm a big fan of the Bulletproof coffee. So I have to have that. It's probably my big thing. And then I do meditate in the morning and do a gratitude exercise. I have a dog, so I enjoy just getting out in nature, walking him, for the 30 minutes, kind of start off the day. So it's a nice way to ease into the day.
Yeah. Okay. And for those who don't know, Bulletproof coffee it's just like high grade coffee, organic, blended with MCT oil, which is like the best part of coconut oil, and then butter, grass-fed butter. But you blend it and it really tastes like a latte. If it didn't taste good, I don't think so many people would do it, but it actually tastes good and the results are pretty real. You do it every single day. How long have you been doing it for?
Probably about 2 or 3 years. And now I'm trying to do the intermittent fasting, or kind of Dave Asprey's, Headstrong program, in a way where you don't have breakfast, and really curious about the effects of the intermittent fasting. And it does fill you up. And when I first heard it, I thought that was just the nastiest sounding stuff in the world, but it's quite delicious.
Yeah.
So that's my crutch.
Yeah. If you think about it, because I thought, I was like, that's weird. But if you think about it, what is half and half? It's cream. Butter, cream, it's not too far away if you drink, coffee and cream. Well, okay. So that's the morning routine. And we talked about, what do you think is holding most men back? And your book here is the Let Go, Let It Flow, the path to peace and personal power. I just want to give credit to the audience for your book here, credit to yourself. But what have been 3 of your most influential books that have helped you on your journey, and why?
Sure. The Tao Te Ching, I really like it for a spiritual text. It's very short. And I find that through an iPhone app that I can just randomly pick out verses, and that's very helpful from a spiritual standpoint, just to kind of reset. A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen was a book that was very instrumental when I was going through my dark time. If the listeners are not familiar, he has the purple bracelet, and then if you catch yourself complaining, you have to switch the bracelet from one hand to the other, and to try to go 21 days without changing the bracelet. And I think what's important about that book, just teaching you the quality of your thoughts and the number of thoughts that you have. And so before that, I really wasn't aware of just the chatter that was going on in my brain. And so it's kind of like becoming aware that I was not my thoughts, was I attributed to that book. And then probably the Alchemist, the story by Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
Just I think we all have a story here, and I love that short story. I think it's just a great book.
Yeah, really good books. And I was adding the Complaint Free World to my wish list as you were talking. I was like, ooh, that sounds good. Okay, and now this next one's more of a scenario for yourself, Julian. So imagine you had 60 seconds with 25-year-old Julian. So if you can envision where he was at personally, professionally, in his relationships, and knowing what you now know today, what would you tell 25-year-old Julian to do and not to do?
The old Bobby McFerrin song, "Don't Worry, Be Happy," would probably come to mind. That, I was very anxious and so forth. And again, as we talked about, being present and just being able to take a break and focus more on the here and now and what you're doing, and enjoy that. Learn to enjoy and appreciate whatever it is that you're in the midst of doing at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, really good. Anything else?
No, that's and enjoy. I mean, I'd love to go back.
Yeah. Okay.
But I enjoy where I am right now too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Typically, just it just draws out great insights, that scenario. Well, even if you have to summarize some of your main points here, all good. But what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
I think it's really to give and serve others is ultimately talked about in the beginning, of letting go of what I have that I receive what I need, and really being in service to others is really what we're here for, to learn, love, and share. And that's really what wakes me up, fires me up, and what makes me very excited for the next day and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like it. And what is something that you're really looking forward to? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, again, it's to have conversations like this, to continue to share the message and really to kind of follow that creative spark, whatever it may be, and just to kind of honor that drive and whatever the process that may follow from that. So really allowing the creative impulse to move and then to create and respond with that and let it go. Not be tied up in, well, I can never be this or I can't be that, just to enjoy the expression for the expression's sake.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Julian, that's going to wrap up the knowledge around there, and really loving the work that you're doing. And for the audience here, please check out, just go to Amazon. You can type in "Let Go, Let It Flow." And the author, Julian Kaufmann, that's Kaufmann. And also the website. Go ahead and share your website on where the audience can follow up with you.
Sure. It's juliankaufmann.com, my name, and starting a movement that I call Prime Mover for a community of like-minded folks that want to learn more about how to optimize their energy and apply these tools and techniques that we talked about today in a greater way.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Julian, for coming on and sharing your story and being vulnerable at that, and sharing a really challenging time that you overcame, and then turning around and being able to share those lessons here with my audience. It means a ton to me, and I know the thousands of men listening.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here, and look forward to seeing you next time at Thrive.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of KnowledgeForMen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.